So we shifted a little bit. This plot was set up basically an up and back design, so we'd plant down and come back, so we have two rows side by side with the same treatments in them. So this is the brassica or mustard mix that we discussed. It's also diverse. There's 5 different brassicas in it, but it doesn't have anything else but brassica in it. So it's a level of diversity. This one is actually built for a specific purpose, in that we're trying to also do a certain amount of honeybee forage, which they're wandering around out in there doing their job. And it's made for an entity called Project Apis M, who does a Seeds for Bees program. They're willing to supply cover crop seed if you're willing to try and get it in the ground and get it to flower. So it's based on trying to get flowers as early as possible to fit almonds or early blooming crops that use honeybees for pollination. Walnuts don't need bees, but on the other hand, this also serves a purpose of, again, being a cover crop that'll help water infiltration due to tap roots. It makes biomass, which you can use to suppress summer weeds with it as well, or you can turn it in. Brassicas are good nitrogen or excess nitrate scavengers. They have a deep, extensive root system most of the time, so they'll chase that anything that was the trees didn't use, or the breakdown from the leaves or other stuff. They'll capture it, at least keep it up in the upper root zone rather than leaching out into the water table potentially. And it breaks down fairly fast. We don't want it to get much more mature than this, because then it starts getting stiff and woody and hard to grind up and turn into little pieces. But right offhand, we've got Oriental mustard, we've got white mustard, and we've also got radish showing up right here. The radish is a daikon radish. It usually has a fairly good sized taproot underneath of it. Sometimes that big, sometimes bigger. If you lop the top off that radish, the body of that radish in the soil rots down and basically leaves a little funnel for water to run in if you did not disturb the surface. Also a place for decomposers to hide and everything else. The mustards don't make as big a taproot, but they may have a deeper taproot. And they're really strong at driving that down through that type of stuff. And part of what the mix is doing for us here is it'll have canola, which is another type of brassica that blooms earliest. And then what would come in would be the white mustard. Then the Oriental mustard blooms last. So we're trying to have a month and a half of flowers out here for whatever foraging honeybees or pollinators that are in the area. So they have that capacity to come find this and use it. Again, it's a tool. If it gets too tall, if it's going to interfere with tractor operations or whatever, it's like, okay, it did its job. It drilled the holes we wanted in the soil. It had flowers on top. We can go ahead and mow it. And then again, it's deciding what to do with it when you mow it, whether you just want to mow it and let it lay there and break down, good weed suppressing mat, or you could turn it in. Right now, this is looking at about, I put my notes down, probably around 8 tons of biomass per acre, which sounds like a whole lot, but it breaks down, that's again 60-70% water, so it's going to break down to a lot less than that. This material, without the extra nitrogen that legumes would have in it, is going to take longer to break down. It'll break down, it's just going to take a while longer to get broken down. We'll usually advise guys that want to start this thing is we'll start simple and easy, and something like this was planted at 10 pounds per acre. It doesn't look like it, but that's 10 pounds per acre with a grain drill. Simple, easy to plant, grows almost everywhere, does a good job. The next year, you may want to rotate to something else because, okay, that one did its job. We could go to that diverse mix that still has mustard in it if you wanted the mustard in it. Eventually, the whole thing is basically to try and get your soil more healthy, have more stuff in it. Kind of like taking probiotics for your own digestion. Is we're putting something in there versus just leaving it out here in the sunlight, getting hot, covered with whatever leaves it might actually get. That's all the organic matter it gets. Your populations of your biology start to decline, everything overall is going to decline. And your partitioning of what eats what's going to decline.
Any thoughts on how you would choose what
to put in?
What you would put in, you know, some of the factors.
Okay, yeah, like 20 questions that if you walked up to me at a trade show and said, I want to plant a cover crop, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, mostly because I want to give you the right thing.
Yeah.
But I want to address your things. So a lot of going into cover cropping for the first time, if you've never done it, or even if you have done it and it's like, okay, well, it sort of worked, it sort of didn't work, whatever, we still go through those 20 questions, because what we want you to have is, what do you want to get out of it? What's your goal?
Exactly.
In this case out here, water infiltration is probably the big bugaboo.
Yep.
What we found last year with water running across here 6 to 10 inches deep from rainstorms was the other end had less washouts when it had a cover crop than the parts that didn't have a cover crop. And this year it's the same thing. We've had some pretty heavy rains all at once, so runoff is going to happen. You're not going to get away from it, but there weren't any gullies or whatever on the far end down at the low end of the field.
And I feel like really, you know, we just had the hailstorm and can see the moisture in here, but places where the cover crop is drying out much faster.
There's a couple things going on. The plant itself is pulling water from the soil and transpiring it, just like when there's vapor comes out of us when we breathe. These guys are doing the same thing. The other thing it can go either way, unfortunately, sometimes when you're trying to manage your cover crop.
Right.
In that it shades the soil, so it cuts down on how much solar radiation, how much straight evaporation you're getting. And it can keep it too wet sometimes. But at the meantime, it also protected the soil surface, so you're cutting down on that raindrop impact and cutting down on this crust that can form on special end soils like this, but they'll form on almost any soil if you get pounded hard enough with water.
Yeah.
So yeah, it looks a little drier. If we went in there with soil moisture sensors, we might find it is drier. We might find it's not drier. It just looks drier. And then it's at what depth, and then the guy mows your tops of your soil sensors off, and yeah. And then comes in, okay, it's going to become a drought. It's going to become an issue. Okay, well, let's terminate that and capture as much water as there is in the soil right now. But if you kill the plant, it stops transpiring. If we kill the plant and leave the mulch on top, the chopped up stuff on the soil surface, you're shading the soil surface as much, if not more, than...
So one of the things I was wondering, kind of in relation to that is, you know, generally how wide you plant is based on what kind of
equipment you have.
But how wide have you seen folks go with a cover crop? I mean,
I know one custom cover crop planter that has a drill that will go 14 feet wide. He typically plants about 12 feet wide. In this operation, we have a 10-foot wide grain drill, so that's what we use.
Yeah.
What is disappointing sometimes is, yeah, they have a 20-foot middle and they plant 16 feet wide, and then their berm spray keeps getting wider and wider till they get down to where, yeah, I have an 8-foot mower, so I'm going to make one pass. So they're not doing themselves a big favor by eliminating the 4 feet on each side, or whatever they kept eliminating until they got it down to where, yeah, I only have to make one pass.
And that gets into the economics of it. I mean, you
No,
know.
and economics is definitely has to come to play with this, because it is a cost. You have to buy seed, you have to put it in the ground, you have to manage it. You were going to mow it, but if you were going to mow, we'll see when we get over to the control, if you were going to mow the weeds, the only weeds that grew out there, you don't need to mow those for another 3 or 4 weeks. Whereas this is like, yeah, I need to mow this and I may have to come back and mow it again.
And you move a lot slower through this.
Oh yeah, no, you're going to be going 1.5 miles through this.
So
maybe 2 at the best. There is a caveat. There's always a caveat. If you were, depending on how robust your IPM program is, if you had 12 feet wide out here and an 8-foot mower, and okay, well, crud, I got to do 2 passes. You could do that 1 pass with 8 feet and mow that off, and leave that 4 foot for a little while longer, because that's all the beneficials that are growing in here are going to move over there. And then as we get more leaves on the trees, they're going to migrate somewhat. We can't prove that they do, but basically what we've shown is if there's some structure and a little bit of hiding place for them, that's where they're going to be, and then they will be available when they're needed. Versus if we mowed it all down, some are going to make it, some are not going to make it, some are going to leave, and you're going to have less migration into the trees. It's a fine point. That's been one of our big problems with cover cropping, is that putting a monetary value to what we get out of it is so difficult. How do you put a dollar value on 50% better water infiltration?
We try to measure that, of course, here, but it's going to vary in every situation, and so
yeah,
that's why I think it makes sense that cover cropping is something you get into and you do for a while, and you get the feel for it.
Usually it's 2 to 3 years before you really start to see the benefits of it. But if you're well in tuned with your trees or your vines, most people say, after the first year, well, first thing they notice is, okay, where I usually had standing water, I don't got standing water anymore, or the water didn't run off, it all soaked in. The next year they kind of go, hey, I got fewer weeds, partly because you're out here mowing it when the weeds need to be mowed as well. Right. And the third year, sometimes even in the second year, they start going, hey, those plants, my crop plants look a little happier. They're a little greener. They're this. But it takes, there was a meeting a couple of weeks ago, and it takes 20 years basically to get that dirt to where it's fully functioning and where I can get away with all I got to do is put on the same amount of manure I put on last year, and I got enough nitrogen to grow a good enough tomato crop.
Oh, that's, yeah, with
no extras, no extra side dressing, no extra problems. But it takes time to do that. So, that's and the ups and downs of the economics of the crop itself will have a lot to do with what you're going to do. Whether it's like, okay, I'm going to go out and plant this stuff's $2 a pound or whatever it is. At 10 pounds, it's $20 in seed, and $20 for the rye is $40 per planted acre, which is only half of the acres if you planted every middle. Okay, that's, 40 acres, $1,000 time the smoke clears. Do I have $1,000 to play with? If I don't, I need to put something cheaper in, or I don't put anything at all in. Depending on who's calling the shots, you may not put anything in.
Let's let's go and check out the triticale.
Okay, we'll go look at a single species cover crop.
There we go.